So one day, there I am in high school having a terrible day. You all know what I'm talking about. Everything you do and everything that happens to you feels awful. But with the power inside of me, I find a way to make it to the end of the day. So there I am waiting for my mom to pick me up at the end of the school day. And sure enough, there she comes, rolling on up in the car, but she's got a suspiciously large smile on her face, so naturally, I'm curious. And then she rolls down the window, and out the window she holds the head of the cutest little puppy golden retriever, our new dog, Schroeder. And let me tell you, that dog cemented my love for golden retrievers. Something I've observed over the years is that in general, when you ask somebody to pet their dog, assuming they're not worried their dog is going to bite you or something like that, they're more than happy for you to come on over and pet their dog. Well, not after they've gotten a load of me. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to pet somebody's dog, and it's ended with them saying, "Sir, you need to stop hugging my dog, you need to stop crying, and no, you cannot have my dog." But as much as a certain dog can cement your love for a certain breed, or just dogs in general, or heck, just life in general, a certain video game can cement your love for video games. And in a lot of cases, it might just be whatever the very first video game you played was. When you were 4, 5, 6, however old you were, the very first time you played a video game, you thought, okay, this is gonna be something that I'm gonna be doing for a while, like for always. I mean, just think about it. If it's the very first video game you ever played, then by default, it's gonna seem incredibly novel no matter what the game is. But even still, for some of us, while playing our very first video game ever certainly got the ball rolling, it's not what cemented our love for gaming. That came later, and I can say that for me personally, I was just so terrible at playing video games at an early age that there was really only so much I could get out of them at that point. So as much as I liked video games when I was 5 or 6 years old, we're talking about love here, people. The big L, a feeling so strong you just want to shout it from the rooftops. I love video games! So when did you do that? Well, I remember which game it was that provided that moment for me, and I know what you're all probably thinking right now. That game has gotta be Mr. Nuts, right? Well, wrong, actually. It was Star Fox 64. I know, I've barely ever talked about the fact that I really like this game. Quick little story for you, and this is a story that I've told before, but when it comes to this story, there's always more to tell. So one day I'm out in my front yard, and the little neighbor kid comes by, and he's with his dad, and they say, "Hey, you wanna come over one day and play some Nintendo 64? And I'm like, "Yeah, I think I've heard of that before." So the next day, I come on over, and yes, Super Mario 64 blew my mind, but the game that I really enjoyed playing was Star Fox 64. I loved playing Star Fox 64, and besides just being better at the video game than I had been at video games prior to that, 1 or 2 years before, this is the first time that I remember actually being able to appreciate all the different nuances put into a video game. The way the lasers would change colors and do more damage when you upgraded them, all the different aerial maneuvers, the do a barrel roll that everyone really likes to say. All that kind of stuff was so cool to me, finding the different pathways that would lead to different levels and secrets. I was really into all of that. on top of, actually being decent at the game, which helped. And of course, it was just a generally really enjoyable game on top of all of that. Just so many more different layers of enjoyment to be had, whereas before I'd be playing something like Outrun on my Genesis, maybe avoid a few cars and get going for a little while before I inevitably smashed my car into someone's beach house, and then just thought, well, I guess that's about as far as I can get, and then just started over again, which, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed that as a kid. And speaking of Outrun, I really enjoy that game now as an adult, that I've been able to get a lot better at it. But the point remains, back then, Star Fox just took things to a whole different level for me. When it comes to the game that cemented your love for gaming, in almost every case, it was probably a game that offered a fresh new experience in some way or another. And speaking of which, what could be a better way for that to happen than getting a brand new console? And when it comes to getting a new console, usually that started with hoping, wishing, and praying that you would actually get it, whether it be asking your parents, trying to make the money on your own, whatever it took. And also, what would typically come with this is a particular game you had in mind that you wanted to get that console in order to play. All of which could lead to a very momentous occasion when you do finally play that console and that game, and a very good chance for cementing your love for gaming. But what about a multiplayer game? That could do it, right? I mean, why not? I remember back in the day, some kids screaming their heads off in delight while playing multiplayer games with other people. Because here's the thing, an enjoyable experience by yourself, sure, that's great. But when it starts to involve the people you care about, your friends, your family, that can take things to a whole nother level. So I would imagine some of you have got to have multiplayer games as your choices. I could totally see some of you saying that a game like Mario Kart, Super Smash Brothers, maybe Contra, some good old co-op Contra, that was the game that really cemented your love for video games. But whatever the game is that cemented your love for video games, I'd like to know what it is. And in particular, I'm curious how many of you are going to have the same answers. How much overlap are we going to get? But either way, leave your response down below and anything else you'd like to say, and I will see ya in the next video.
He's the red bird, yeah, and he's talking about video games. He's the red